Thank you for tuning in. This is Dane Diesel, aka Dane Carly, better yet, Dane Carly. But I want to welcome you to Billionaire Belief, and today's topic is the math of wealth. I want to begin by talking about how big can a tree grow? We all know that every tree that we see in the world, it once was a seed. But someone took a seed, they put it in the ground, they took care of it, they watered it, they gave it certain nutrients, and little by little, it began to sprout, it began to grow, it began to get taller and taller and taller. And then over the years, through the wear and tear of the weather, it got strong, and eventually it became the tree that we see today. Now, that never would have came about if there hadn't been some sort of nurturing that went into the cultivation of that tree. It wasn't neglected. But we all know that if you do neglect a tree while it's trying to grow, it will not grow. Ultimately, it will die. So ultimately, within the context of wealth, the same applies to you, to me, and everyone else in the world when it comes to our money, because our money ultimately is the equivalent of seeds. And with these seeds, we ultimately have this place where we can, quote unquote, farm at, which is ultimately, what we have in savings, which is ultimately our wealth. And from that, once we put that seed to work and we nurture it, we cultivate it, we take care of it, we grow it, that harvest, that is going to beget our fortune. And that same concept applies to you, me, and everyone else in the world, regardless of who you are or where you're at. We've seen it time and time again, countless examples of people, whether they started with something or not. But we'll get into that in a little bit, because right now we're going to talk about the math of wealth, specifically the concept in and of itself. But I want you to think about it within the context, or kind of like within the metaphor of a tree. So when it comes to your wealth, think of it more so as you growing a farm of trees. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to be able to go out and look at your land and be able to see a big forest. So we're going to talk about the proven strategies, the basic building blocks of it, the math of wealth, the math, like as you can see, the math of creating a machine that just churns out profits for you, a machine that generates revenues for you. That's what we're going to talk about. So let's get into it. Let's dive in. So the first component of the math of wealth is, how much money are you starting with? That's where we want to start at. That's where we want to begin, because ultimately you got to start somewhere. Now, ultimately, you're going to either have nothing or you're going to have something. And what I mean by nothing or something, ultimately, if you have something, you're going to either savings, some form of income, some form of a trust. If not, if you have nothing, then you're going to just have pure hustle. Hustle, 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 hustle. You're going to have a confidence. You're going to have a courage in yourself that's going to allow you to, through all the adversity, through all the challenges, through all the fear, to continue to move forward and progress right through it, through this concept that we all are now all of a sudden want to identify with, called hustle. So that's the first component of the math of wealth. How much money are you starting with? And we've seen countless times in history that whether you start with nothing, whether you start with something, it really, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but as a place to begin, as a place to start, it kind of really doesn't matter, because we've seen plenty of people who've gone from nothing all the way to the top, and people who have started with something and gone all the way to the bottom, or continue to go all the way to the top. So it's your choice. The three C's of life: choices, chances, change. Are you willing to go through that cycle? Are you willing to go through that process? So the math of wealth, principle number one: how much money are you starting with? So once you identify that, then you go into the next component, which is, how much income do you earn? Now, when it comes to income, it's pretty much going to come to you in two ways. The first, linearly, or non-linearly. So when we talk about linearly, we're talking about a finite stream of income, typically one, two, maybe three. But ultimately, when you earn income linearly, you're trading time for money. And we all know, like I said, that that's finite. There's only 24 hours in a day that we all are blessed with and grateful to have. But that doesn't compare to a nonlinear income streams, which is infinite, and you can have so many, because at the end of the day, you're trading money for money. So you're taking money that you've earned, and you're putting it aside, and you're putting it, quote unquote, to work for you. So the difference ultimately between linear and nonlinear, on another level, Mr. Robert Kiyosaki blessed us with Rich Dad Poor Dad, but he talked about the cash flow quadrant. Ultimately on the left hand side of the quadrant, you have E's and S's, which represent employees and self-employed, but ultimately they have jobs, which is a finite stream of income. But ultimately, he talks about the reason why, the people choose to be on the left-hand side, which is the E and the S, is because of comfort and security. Whereas on the right side, you have business owners and investors, the B's and the I's, and they are all about getting their income through owning systems, which are finite ways of generating income, because they're all about being rich and profitable. That's all. That's where their core values lie. Their core values lie in being rich and profitable. Whereas on the left-hand side, the E's and the S's, the employees and the self-employed, their core values lies in being comfortable and having a quote-unquote perception of security, or ultimately the emotional feeling of security, which is brought by their perception that because they work for a big company or for someone that they quote unquote know or feel that they trust, that stream of income is going to always be there for them. But ultimately, that's it. When it comes to you earning income, when it comes to me earning income, when it comes to anybody out there earning income, these are things that we know. But it's from what I've learned through my journey thus far, it's just more so putting some context and putting some imagination to it. So when it comes to how much going back to that concept of trees, what I'm saying, how big can a tree grow? When it comes to you and your wealth, if your wealth was represented by how many trees do you have, what I'm saying, as a E or a S, you already know, like your farm in a sense is going to be pretty limited. But as a B and the I, you now know it, or you can see a little better that you can not only have a farm where quote unquote you're at, but you can have farms all over the world. And that's the second component, the second principle, the second concept of the math of wealth. How much income do you earn? Which leads us into our third one, which is how much income do you save? Because if you're going to have kids, or you already have kids, you're probably going to want to send them to college, or they want to go to college. You're going to want to take plenty of vacations. You're going to want to have your own house, and that comes with its own expenses. But most importantly, you're going to have a nest egg so that you can have a retirement for yourself when you get into your golden ages. But that ultimately comes down to a simple concept. Do you pay yourself first or pay yourself never? When you get income that you've earned, what's the first thing that you do with it? Literally, what is the first thing that you do with it? Is it a payment to your savings as well as to your retirement account, if you have to manage one with the Roth IRA, or if you do, or if you are fortunate to be in a situation where you work at a company and they're offering you a 401k with the match, bada bing, bada boom, what I'm saying, you're able to contribute to that. But nevertheless, are you paying yourself first? Are you putting some money aside, not only for yourself in the event that you do have some emergencies, because they will happen, flat tires come, cars do break down, and more serious, things do occur. So there's certain insurances that you need to have, but that comes from your savings in a sense. Do you have this money set aside to pay for those things? And that's ultimately going to come down to a simple concept, a simple activity, I would say, of paying yourself first. When you get money after you've earned it, one of the first things you do you put some aside? Do you put some in savings? Even if you get all cash, if you get $100, if you have money in your bank account, you can still transfer, let's just say 10%. So $10, you can still put $10 into your savings account, even though you got that $100 in cash. But are you doing it? Are you paying yourself first? Are you treating every dollar like it's worth what it's worth, or you're treating it like it's monopoly money, money that you can just toss around and throw away. And that's something that we all have to get better at. Something that we all need discipline in. You, me, everyone else in the world. But the whole purpose of it all, especially with this concept of billionaire relief, being a resource specifically for young entrepreneurs to come and learn ultimately what it's going to take for them to move forward in their careers as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as investors. Studying the habits of the rich and wealthy, just getting the conversation started, sharing this information, getting the word out, spreading the word. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to that back, to this concept of the math of wealth, how much income do you save? That's the third concept. It's very important because when you think about, some of these billionaires and some of these millionaires of the world, and they talk about, this person's worth, X amount of millions or billions of dollars. One of the things that I've noticed people really don't take into consideration is that, this money that they have, or this net worth that they have, is ultimately a reflection of the value of what they have paid themselves first, in a sense. So what they have in savings, and the last component, which we'll get to, but the rate of return, what they're getting on their savings. So when it comes to that whole idea of it takes money to make money, you that whole concept and idea, that's where that concept and idea comes from. I want to say, money that you've paid yourself first, that's the money that it's going to take to make money. But if you're not paying yourself that money when you get it, then that's why you don't have it to make it. Very simple. And, like I said before, when it comes to, just that simple task of paying yourself first, think about, what are you going to need for your golden years when you're in your older, your elderly years. You might have kids, you might not have kids, but what do you want to do? You want to be sitting up in the house all day, or do you want to be traveling the world? It's up to you. Are there other activities that what are the activities that you are going to want to be engaged in? What are the things that you want to do? What type of lifestyle, are you going to want to live, and what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? And that's all going to boil down to your savings. So if you've read about it or you've seen about it, all these tycoons, like all these hedge fund guys, all these billionaires, these millionaires, at the end of the day, one thing we can't say is they're hell of a savers. They're true savers, because, like I said, it takes money to make money. And that's why they engage in certain activities to ultimately make more money, and why they're focused on making money is because they're focused, they're cued in, and they know what they need to do in order to get the money that they feel, that they believe that they need, that they're it's gonna take, so that they can have a great lifestyle in the here and now, as well as their golden years. And the same applies to you. You have these same capabilities, you have these same access, you have the same opportunities. But the question is, are you taking the time to make it do what it do? So that's the third principle of the math of wealth. How much income do you save? Very important one, because it's the savings that's going to lead us into our fourth principle, which is what rate of return are you getting on your savings? Now, one of the things you have to take into consideration when it comes to the money that you've saved is this fact called inflation. So the time value of money. Now, a dollar, if you ever heard that concept, a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow. It's because with time, inflation. So, every year, a dollar, in a sense, it loses some value. So when it comes to your savings, the game now is making sure that you have, the savings in places where it's going to grow faster than the rate of inflation. Now, most of the time, we think we can put our money in commercial banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, etc., and we get these, 0.0025 or 16% returns on our savings, and at the end of the year, we look at our statements, and we're, a part of us, it's just like, oh yeah, I got some money. I got a return, on my savings. But the reality is that you probably lost money simply because whatever percent that bank was giving you for holding your money is nowhere close to what the rate of inflation was. So you actually lost some dollars. So that's why it's important for you to really develop a risk tolerance when it comes to getting a rate of return on your savings. Now, some areas where you can get some better rates of return that either compete with or exceed the inflation rate are going to be stocks and bonds. Obviously, playing the stock market, the real estate, so land, so investing in property, and obviously getting the income from possibly leasing it out, renting it out, and or just the value of the land is in and of itself increasing over time. But making sure you got to once again make sure that's greater than the rate of inflation. And then last but not least, which is one of the most tried and true from the beginning of time, is owning and operating businesses. So taking the savings that you do have, starting businesses, earning income, generating income, getting the money back, then starting another business, and just keep flipping your money. That's one of the tried and truths. That one's by far one of the most simplest out of the three. In that, nowadays for less than $100, and I mean that in all sincerity and from the bottom of my heart, less than $100, you can start a business. But it just takes you getting in the state of mind, getting focused, and a whole lot of other things, getting your time in place. So when it comes to the math of wealth, this being the fourth principle, what rate of return are you getting on your savings? It's important that you realize that it's a lot of work that goes into this. It's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of passion. It's a lot of effort. So you got to make sure that you're focused, and this is something that you want to do, because you got to keep your eye on it. Your good eye. You got to keep your good eye and your good ear on everything. And most importantly, you have to lead, because at the end of the day, you are the one helming, leading the ship. At the end of the day, you're the pilot. You're the one in the cockpit, guiding, soaring through the sky. Taking your crew, where y'all need to go. That being your family and your close friends, your best associates. But this is it's a very simple process. It's a very simple plan. It's a very simple procedure. And whether you're Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, all the way down to the janitor working at the school, the big building downtown. It doesn't really, the same principle, the same process, the same procedures. It's the same when it comes to wealth for everybody. The question is the thinking that you're taking to that process. Are you just kind of like trying to quote unquote, play not to lose because your core values revolve around comfort and security, or are you playing to win? You all about getting your profits and being rich. And it's just simple. And it's not about morally being good or bad or right. It's nothing about that. You know what I'm saying? Like there's plenty of good, quote unquote, phenomenal people who are wealthy, and then there are some who aren't. And just like there are some pastors who are great guys and gals, and then there's some who aren't. But you're not going to not try to be, if you want to be a pastor, you're not going to not try to do that because, you see someone else not doing that. And this goes with any and everything in life. So you just got to, be yourself, be conscious, learn this stuff, study the habits of the rich and wealthy, and duplicate and emulate what they do. And I'm not saying you're going to get the same exact results, but you're going to get something close to it. But you just got to get started. You have to begin. You have to get focused. And so we've just covered the math of wealth. And it's very simple four concepts. How much money do you start with? And once you get that squared away, your initial net worth accounting formulas, in a sense, once you get that in place, then it just comes to you repeatedly doing these next three things. How much income are you earning? How much income are you saving? And then what rate of return are you getting on your savings? It's just that simple. That's the basic formula. That's the basic math to building wealth, to generating wealth. That's what it has been. That's what it's always going to be. It hasn't changed. It's never going to change unless, somehow the economic system of the world changes. It's the only way it's not going to change. And with that being said, this process is mechanical. which means that, anybody, this isn't some spiritual thing. It's more mechanical than it is spiritual. And all you have to do is just take the time to believe in yourself, which is going to make you feel confident and be courageous to move forward. Because last but not least, you always want to keep in mind, what's your end game? Where do you want to, where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to have? Are you willing to give it your all? Are you willing to follow the plan? Those are very important questions that you have to ask yourself. Very, very, very important questions, because those questions are ultimately going to define, the vision that you have for yourself. But that vision is going to first come from you establishing a sense of purpose in your life. So you gotta understand, the psychology, most importantly, of the stages of development that you're going to need to go from, in a sense, a job seeker to a job creator, a renter to an owner. There's a process. There's dramatic mindset shifts that must occur. But the question is, are you willing to give it your all to make that happen? Remember the 3 C's of life: choices, chances, change. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to follow the plan? It's very simple. How much money are you earning? What's the income that you're earning? Are you doing it non-linearly, or are you doing it linearly? Ultimately, are you a business owner, investor, non-linear, infinite streams and sources of income, or linear, trading time for money? It's very simple, but your choice. Everything is your choice. Choices, chances, change. Are you willing to go through that process? So, what's your end game? Think about that. Now that you know the math, you can sit down and really answer these questions for yourself, and really be honest, and really think about, like I said, are you willing to give it your all, and are you willing to follow the plan? Because regardless of what you want to do in life, this is ultimately going to serve as the foundation of it all. Because you're going to always, in this current society and in this current world, you're always going to need money. You're always going to need money to do the things that you really want to do. And money is ultimately a tool. It's something that you're going to have to become very conscious of. You're gonna have to start building partnerships. You're going to have to get better at that, and risk tolerance. Like I said, those are 3 kind of areas you can begin with. But being conscious of money, so really learning money, really getting good with money. Me personally, still some setbacks from time to time, but it's a process that I'm going through. I got started. And I can help you get started. I can show you how to get started, and together, we will win. It's gonna take all of us to make any one of us successful. But you got to get started. You got to be willing to and commit to greatness, and commit to excellence, and commit to just making it happen. And slowly but surely, you will begin to see, your seed will begin to sprout, and then it gets little by little, it'll get taller and taller and taller until eventually it'll be a big tree. And then through the years, as the weathers the storms, it'll get stronger and stronger. And then boom, what I'm saying? The next thing you'll know, you'll be, you'll be then went where you wanted to go. You'll be that you will have become who you wanted to be. You will have done what you wanted to do, and you will have what you wanted to have. And that was all because you 3 Ds, dedication, desire, determination. You was willing, and you have the fire, and you made it happen. So that leads us to our action step. This is very important. I want you to subscribe to the Billionaire Belief mailing list at www.billionairebelief.com to download our Wealthy Habits Blueprint, so you can learn what it takes to move forward in your career as an entrepreneur, business owner, and investor. Plus, you're going to get access to tools and proven strategies that will show you how to produce income without working for someone or some corporation. This is very important because I've personally put many hours days, months, and years of painstaking research and work aggregating all this information and putting it in a place where you can have access to it all in one spot. And, I've sacrificed plenty of turnips, a couple of relationships probably. And that's a lot. But, the reward to me was all about making sure that people didn't have the problems, specifically, when I have children, as well as my current nieces and nephews, brothers and sisters. Why are we having the same problem that our parents had and our grandparents had, specifically when it comes to money? Why isn't someone sitting down and taking, biting that bullet, that proverbial bullet in a sense, or, swallowing that big horse pill and just figuring this stuff out, so that the next generations to come won't have these problems, so that they'll have the game, they'll have the savvy, they'll have the know-how to be able to go into the world and have the backbone to self-sustain themselves, as well as have a deep reverence for life. Like I didn't get that. So I saw that, and I was willing to make the sacrifice to make sure that you can have someone, in a sense, looking out for you in the next generation. So I really, see Billionaire Belief is being a platform that molds the mindsets of future entrepreneurs to come at the end of the day, because you, as their parent, their uncle, aunt, brother, older brother, younger brother, so you're gonna have access to this information, and together, what I'm saying, we're gonna help each other win. Because, like I said, the process is the same. We go just master this math of wealth together, and we will win. So I want you to subscribe, www.billionairebelief.com. Join the mailing list. I'm gonna have a lot of goodies for you. And like I said, this information, I want you to look at this information and look at Billionaire Belief more so as a shopping experience. Think of us, more so as like the Lowe's or the Walmart of entrepreneurship, in that you come in, you're looking for something specific. If you don't find it, send us an email, and we'll make sure we have it, quote unquote, on our shelves next time you stop by. And shoot us your email so that we can let you know we do have in on our shelves. But like I said, treat it like a shopping experience. You're not going to come to Billionaire Belief, and I'm not expecting you, in a sense, to come to Billionaire Belief for any of our other platforms and walk away with everything. I understand that you're coming for certain things, and if we have them, great. Let me know. Let me know if they're great. If you feel we can improve them, like we'll do that. But if not, if we don't have it, like I said, shoot us an email. We'll put the work into researching it out for you, and creating some content to better serve your needs, and better serve you on your quest for success within the context of wealth. Because at the end of the day, it's all about just gaining control of your world, in a sense. So having a sense of control when it comes to your time structure, recognition structure, and that's what it ultimately boils down to. You feel you don't have to answer to anybody but yourself, in a sense. You own your time, you own your schedule. And so that's what it's really all about. That's what ultimately I believe building wealth is all about. It's all about the freedom. It isn't about the attention. It isn't about being sexy, in a sense. It is about being rich, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And so it took me a while to get my head wrapped around that. But that just came more so from like a detox of the limiting beliefs that I had growing up in probably the same type of environment that you did growing up when it came to money. So we got to develop a better relationship with money, and that's really what we're all about here at Billionaire Belief. We want to help you develop a better relationship with money. Like I said, we want to help you study the habits of the rich and wealthy, so that you can take on those habits yourself, and through you taking on those habits yourself and engaging in those activities, you yourself will ultimately be able to generate results that are comparable, better, or something close to, what you initially set out for. So it's better to have a plan than no plan. And so my personal passion, my personal duty, I want to help you in. I want to help you get to the top. I want to help you become the world class entrepreneur. I know you can be, even though I haven't even met you or shook your hand or said hello to you before in my life. But I believe in you. I just hope you believe in you. And so let me show you, what I've learned thus far that is allowing me to move forward in my life and make the steps I need to make to get to the top. And you can join me for the ride. So head over to billionairebelief.com, subscribe to the mailing list, and I will see you on the other side.